Hello everyone. In this video, we'll see the console overview of AWS Lambda. When you logged into the AWS console, here you can see the recently visited services. So what we can do, either in the search icon, just type Lambda, just click on this Lambda to get into the console page of Lambda. Or we can just click on this services icon where we can see the entire list of services that are provided by AWS. Here I'm heading over to the compute section where we can find the Lambda. Just click on this Lambda to get into the console of Lambda. In your account, if there is no function at all, which means if you never created any AWS Lambda or there is no AWS Lambda right now, then we'll be greeted with this particular page where we can find out the basics and how the Lambda works. So for example, here they have given the sample code of AWS Lambda in the different runtime. If it is a Node.js, just see this is the syntax to create the Lambda. We have to keep this exports.handler, then create the function. Here we can do anything we want. In this particular code, they are just returning hello from Lambda. The same way, just click on this Java, where we can see the syntax of AWS Lambda if it is a Java-based environment. The same way, they have given the sample code or the syntax in the other runtime environment as well. So right now, let's go with the Node.js since it's very easy to create it. But in the playlist, we'll be going with the Java only. Let me click on this run button. It will just return hello from Lambda from this particular Lambda function. I'm just clicking on this run. Yeah, it is returning hello from Lambda. So it is just to showcase how easy to create the AWS Lambda. That's it. So next, we'll see how Lambda responds to events. So the Lambda can respond to a different type of events. Here they've given an example for streaming analytics and mobile or IoT backends. So when the data is being sent to the Lambda, for example, here there is one or few data that are sent to the Lambda. So those kind of data can be dealt by the Lambda itself. The single instance itself. When more data are sent to the Lambda or more events or more inputs are sent to the Lambda, if the Lambda is unable to process that particular load, then it will scale automatically to deal the particular increased load. Watch when I press this particular icon. So I'm sending more data to or more input to the Lambda. When we are sending more input to the Lambda, the particular instance was unable to handle the load. So it is automatically creating more Lambda, or it automatically scales up to deal the particular load. And the same way, when the data is getting reduced or the input is getting reduced, it automatically scales down. It won't just keep the instance as it is. So that's the power of serverless services. So let's see how it scales seamlessly in the next page. So right now the Lambda, every month, the first 1 million request is free if the Lambda is based on 128 MB and it should be within a 1 second invocation, which means the Lambda should get over within a second. In that case, the first 1 million request is always free. But let's send more data to the Lambda and see how it affects the cost. Right now, the invocation is 11 lakhs invocation, and the cost is like $0.093. Let's send more data, more input to the Lambda and see. Almost it is like 40 lakh invocation and the cost is still very low. So that's the power of AWS Lambda. If you are planning right, then we can just keep the cost very minimal with the Lambda. So now we'll see how to create a function in the AWS console itself. But from the next video, we'll be creating the function in the editor. Let's click on create a function. And let's go out with the runtime environment at Node.js. Give a function name. Let me give you as a demo. And we can choose a runtime as Node.js. And if you want, just choose a different runtime, whatever you are familiar with. And we have to give some execution role to the Lambda. Right now, I don't want you to get confused with this. We have covered in this playlist about what is this IAM role and how to select the right IAM role or how to create the right IAM role for the Lambda. And we can just create the function with the default settings. Yeah, the Lambda is created. This is the home page of Lambda. Since it's a node-based environment, we can see the code here. Even for the Python-based environment also, we can see the code. If the data is, or if the code is, I think, less than 10 MB. If it is a Java-based code, then we can see the code here. We have to edit the code in the editor, then we have to upload the code. For example, here we can see the Lambda in a diagrammatic view. Right now, it's a simple Lambda. It doesn't have layers, or it doesn't have any triggers or destination, so nothing is mapped here. On the other hand, see this particular code. It is taking the data in the form of event, and here they are returning the status code as 200 and the body is hello from Lambda. To test it, just click on this test button. We have to create some event to the Lambda. Like I said, the Lambda reacts to the event, or on the other hand, the input to the Lambda is an event. The event can be anything. You can send a JSON, or you can send a primitive data type like string, int, or anything. So you can send any input to the Lambda. Right now, let's give some dummy input to the Lambda, because anyway, here we are not consuming anything from the Lambda. We just need some dummy input to trigger this particular Lambda. We are not reading anything from the event, which is an input to the Lambda. Let's click on test and create a new event. I am just giving some name, demo event. Let's keep this JSON and click on save and click test now. So yeah, right now it returned this status code as 200 and the body is hello from Lambda. Here we can see the basic log. If we have written anything, we can see, but we didn't write any log. So there is no log. By default, it will be showing the request ID. What is the request ID for this Lambda or for this particular invocation? We can see the other detail, like the runtime duration, build duration. The build duration will be the round off time. If the Lambda ran for 17.97 milliseconds, the build duration will be 18 milliseconds. And what is the memory size, what is the maximum memory used, all those things we can see it here. So creating the Lambda and running the Lambda is that simple. And since the status code is 200, it's showing as succeeded. Otherwise, you will be seeing some failure message. On the other hand, we can see some basic configuration about the Lambda in the configuration tab. For example, the general configuration. This is where we have configured the memory. By default, it has the 128 MB memory, but we can increase the size also. The same way, the default timeout is 3 seconds. Maximum we can increase to 15 minutes. So here we can increase to 15 minutes. The same way, the default memory is 128 MB, but maximum we can increase up to 10,240 or somewhere around 10 GB. So that's it with the Lambda. And on the final thing, if you want to delete this Lambda, just click on this actions and click on the delete function. And just click on delete to delete it. Otherwise, let's go to the Lambda homepage. Since we have one Lambda, hereafter we won't be seeing that home page where we have seen how Lambda works and all those animated diagrams. Now click on these functions and select the Lambda actions delete, and we have to type delete. Yeah, the Lambda is deleted. In the next video, we'll see how to create the Lambda from the editor and how to upload it. Thank you. Bye-bye.